Today on Locked On Phoenix Suns, it's him, folks. After all the hullabaloo, after all the if then, maybe, will he, won't he, who are they going to go with, Bob Myers this and David Griffin that, the Suns have their man. He was here all along. Brian Gregory, what is happening? Let's go.
You are Locked On Suns, your daily Phoenix Suns podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back in to Locked On Phoenix Suns. I'm Brendon, Kleen, a staff writer at Awful Announcing and a credentialed Suns media member. Thank you for making Locked On Suns your first listen here on this Thursday afternoon. We're recording early to get you this episode as quickly as possible, so don't forget. Locked On Suns, free and available on all platforms, including YouTube. So if you're finding us for the first time, click that follow or subscribe button. Do what thousands upon thousands of other Suns fans have already done. Become an everydayer. Get locked on to the Phoenix Suns right here each and every day. Today's episode, folks, brought to you by Monarch Money. Take control of your finances right now with Monarch Money. Use the code LOCKEDONNBA at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. More from them later on in the show, as well as much more of the layers of this Suns hire. James Jones, head coach. What are all the next steps? But first, we got to talk about the hire of Brian Gregory. Joining me to do that, as always, from the Wild West Valley, my fellow Suns credentialed media member. How are we feeling, Ben Garcia?
I'm all right. Obviously a little blurry at this moment. Got to fix that, but I'm okay. It's 12:45. I'm eating a Chipotle bowl, texting you, and the next moment you're breaking the news to me.
We
stunned.
texted each other at the exact same moment about two very different things,
well,
somehow the Suns were right on the tip of our tongues.
You did me
as
a
always.
solid, and the response to my text, it was like, well, there it is. I was like, wait, what are you saying? And then I got the text from you. So thanks for breaking it for me. Shams clean.
You're welcome. Let's get into it. Brian Gregory, the man whose name began to trickle out Wednesday via Mark Stein, as Gambo said, hey, this is coming soon, and we hear this guy's name, and all signs were pointing toward Brian Gregory, and that is indeed where the Suns' search has ended up. He will become the next general manager. That is the title that the Suns' official press release, which has already come out, is using. We'll talk about these other layers to it, as I said, but in addition, James Jones has been demoted to a title of senior advisor. The quote from Mat Ishbia in the press release, Brian has been a valuable member of our front office, playing an integral role in drafting and developing our young players. I am excited for him to step into the role of general manager. He has a brilliant basketball mind, and he will transform and elevate our team. Is that the next Suns season hashtag for the fall, Ben? Transform and elevate? Is that what we're going with? What'd you think with 24 hours or so to sit on this, and then when I texted you, seeing that it's officially official?
Well, when you texted me, I thought maybe like James Jones was staying too, because all you texted was just like, oh, they did it, and then I saw it. But as far as a hashtag, what is it going to be next year? Spartan on? I mean, I'm disappointed, man. I reserve the right to change my mind. Things can change this hire, and I will change my opinion accordingly. But all I have in front of me is all I have in front of me. Without just connecting the dots of MSU. Like, just take that out of it. If I just told you Ishbia hired a guy who's got one NBA season experience, who doesn't have a lot of winning seasons recently in college basketball, the biggest program he coached was Dayton. He has one NCAA basketball tournament appearance. Like, just take the Michigan State thing off of it. Because I see some people kind of being like, oh, that's unfair. Because people hire people that they know all the time. Fine. I'll just take his experience. It's lackluster to say the least, and it feels a little sloppy and a bit hasty if this is what they came up with out of all the other names. So it sucks to go from talking about Bob Myers, who we said we were going to mention if they didn't hire him, all the way down to Brian Gregory, who a guy I didn't know existed until 1 p.m. yesterday. Your thoughts?
I am okay with the idea of, now that he's gotten hired, and just trying to be level-headed and clear-eyed about him taking this role, I'm fine to take away the connections to Ishbia and the frustration that I think a lot of Suns fans, including ourselves watching this whole process play out, might be feeling right now, that there was a lot of talk about change and this doesn't feel like change. I can honestly set that aside, at least for a moment. I can buy even, Ben, that the vision, the identity, the sort of defense first or, more rough edge type of culture that Ishbia preached when he sat up there at the press conference a couple of weeks back. I can even believe that Gregory, maybe he already had him in his head when he said that. That's totally fine. But I can't get around the exact same thing you just said. This person has given us no evidence that he is the best candidate. 1 year of experience is here on the most embarrassing, underperforming Suns team in the history of the franchise. That's his NBA experience. It's not just that it's only 1 year, it's this past year. And not even a lot of high-level coaching, college coaching experience, both in terms of program, conference, and success. And not a lot of development of star draft picks. Nothing really about his resume outside of 2 decades ago. He was around one of the most legendary college coaches ever in Tom Izzo. Take that for whatever you might want to take it as. And so it's like, I'm happy to take the hire on its surface, but it's almost worse if I do that. It's almost worse if I just look at his resume versus all the other stuff. And so I just have a really hard time getting excited. The best I can get myself to is we'll see.
Yep. I'm happy we land on the same page there, because it's like when people tried to grade NBA drafts or NFL drafts. Like, draft grades are kind of nonsense because you're not really sure what they're going to pan out to be. So all you can do is look at the experience and look at where they were drafted. All I can do to make a grade on this hire, which I will give an F, just so we're being clear, because forget the MSU stuff. Forget it. Where is the experience to show that he's even a successful person in basketball? Didn't have that at college basketball. Yeah, cool. He helped MSU win a national championship. They would have won that national championship without
and it'd be
him.
different if that happened 2 years ago. I would give it a little bit more of a lofty spot, because then it's like, well, he was just around that type of success. This was when he was practically a kid assistant.
Yep.
And it was a legendary team and a legendary coach. Like, what is he really taking from that experience now 25 years later?
I don't even know why it's in the press release, because it's touted in there. Listen, it's touted in there like it's something major. I had someone tell me in the comment section one time, like, saying that he's not qualified for the job is like hearsay, because he helped them win a national championship with Michigan State. Like, they would have won that championship without him. Like, they would have been just fine. They had Tom Izzo. This feels like, and I related it earlier to this, it feels like when you hire your fraternity brother to a job they're not qualified for. And that's what it feels like with Mat Ishbia. It feels like he can't let go of the college days, and he's bringing all that with him. And maybe this guy's awesome, and I hope he is, but the experience tells me, just on paper, he's kind of an underachieving basketball head. Mm-hmm. And it's not even like you and I can list off these draft picks after draft picks that he's helped develop. You can argue, why is it 82 games and Ryan Dunn still doesn't have a 3-point shot? Maybe he missed there, or maybe he's a little small, like things of that nature. I can't point to anything. And you it's the same thing, man. I don't want it to be doom and gloom, because I don't want people to tune out the next season. That's worse for us. But
there's
the
nothing
best
that's
I can
a home run about it. Is that a fair way to put it? We don't have to pick nits and Ryan Dunn just to knock down Brian Gregory, but there's nothing on his resume that is a A1 hitch your wagon, pin your medals and ribbons up to this achievement that makes you the guy that can go into a room and say you've earned this job. And
there's no doubles. You had mentioned home run. There's no doubles. Sorry, continue.
Yeah. Yeah. And so it makes me feel like from the beginning, Mat Ishbia went up to the podium when he spoke to all of us 4 or 5 days after the season had ended and Bud had been fired. And I wonder if in his head it was already Myers or this guy. It feels like that's how this progressed. Bob Myers was the far-fetched, ideally we'll do that. Once that didn't seem to pan out because he didn't want to move or he didn't want to be full-time in this role and wanted it to be more of a on-my-terms situation, it feels like pretty freaking quick that Ishbia pivoted to this plan, and I'm not sure there was even a third real option.
I don't know, and obviously I don't have the sourcing for this. I'd be surprised if they really sat down with anyone else. This feels rash, hasty, and after everything they told us in the press conference, like it's going to be a prolonged process. We're gonna turn every stone. One of the good things about being eliminated early is we have more time to kind of figure out what we want to do next year. That's the one silver lining. What were they doing for 2 weeks? Did they just
they waited longer than New
guy?
Orleans and Sacramento? I guess you can give them that.
Well, even like with New Orleans and Sacramento, you might not like their hires, but I could point to their experience and be like, okay, these guys at least
I would feel worse about Joe
there.
Dumars. I'll give Ishbia
Really?
credit there. Yeah.
Really?
Joe Dumars became a joke by the end of the Pistons. He's the guy who signed Josh Smith to that max that they had to cut 2 years in and just lost kind of track of the modern NBA.
Josh Smith got that max from the Hawks and then got traded there.
No.
Well, this was 15 years ago.
We don't have to debate Joe Dumars' resume, but I'm just saying I would feel worse about that one, and it was a less diligent process even than this one. So maybe there's a little bit of a silver lining there. But I agree with you in the big picture that the thoroughness that we were sort of promised is really hard to back up when you go in-house. It just doesn't add up. Not to say this guy can't succeed, not to say that there isn't that vision and identity, and Gregory is onto something with the identity that this organization is going to have, and he's able to delegate, and some of the other promotions we saw today or guys that are still in that front office can do a decent job. But the talk, the point of view we heard does not align with the decision that was just made. But let's talk about one of the people that will still be in that building, which is James Jones. Although how and what that'll look like is very much uncertain. We'll get there next. First, today's show brought to you by Monarch Money. Do you ever check your bank account and wonder, where did all my money go? Well, we all do. Between dining out, online shopping, and entertainment, it's easy to lose track, and that's where Monarch Money comes in. Your personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money is not just a budgeting app, it's a complete financial command center. You can track all your accounts, investments, and spending in one place so you stop just managing your money and start building wealth. We all have our different ways of doing this, but the best thing about Monarch Money is that it's all in one place. It's convenient and it's easy for you. You can check your finances, track your spending, and plan long-term goals all in that one place. So rather than checking a bunch of different apps or spreadsheets or jotted notes on the back of a notepad in your junk drawer in your kitchen, it's all at Monarch Money. So take control of your finances with Monarch Money by using the code LOCKEDONNBA at monarchmoney.com to get 50% off your first year. That's MONARCHMONEY.com, code LOCKEDONNBA for half off your first year. All right, Ben, let's keep it rolling here. James Jones. Remember him, the guy who had been the GM? Yeah, he's staying apparently in a role that the Suns are calling in their press release senior advisor. Now, a lot of this segment, I think, as we talk about Jones and some of the other changes in this front office, are going to be a little bit hypothetical and uncertain. We're recording this as quickly as we could after the news came down, so maybe when, Burns and Gambo starts up in about half an hour, or the Twitter machines keep churning stuff out, there will be more info here. But My initial instinct on this, Ben, if I'm just going to be honest and set up our conversation, is I think that this is a formality and a sign of respect. I do not expect that James Jones will have much of a voice here, and I would have the immediate question of if this title and any role with the franchise will actually exist beyond June 30th when we know his contract was already set to expire.
I would agree with you. My question would be, when did they decide this? And if it was decided before, it had to have been. It had to have been decided before all this. It's not like if Bob Myers was going to come here, that James Jones was going to keep his job. It sounds like if you were going to demote him, you were going to demote him. So it brings me back to, why did we have that press conference 2 weeks ago? Why did he speak? Could someone have told us if he was going to have a job? This could have been said then, man. Yeah, I'm with you. It's just out of respect.
As long as he didn't actually make any decisions. The only bad thing about him being at the podium for that press conference is it's embarrassing to him.
Oh, it's so embarrassing. But that's a bad look for your franchise.
In terms of what I care about,
But I disagree, man. I think that's a bad look for your franchise and shows that you're not run well. And I agree with you as well. It's a respect thing. James Jones is going to get $200,000 a year to go away and sit in his home, and maybe they'll call him about a potential 3-and-D wing in the draft season, see what he thinks about him. But I mean, it is what it is, man. James Jones is gone. But the difference is he actually gone? Because it's not a different person with a different perspective from a different winning organization coming into here. So I know the person is gone, but did you kill the idea? I would say no.
Well, tell me what you mean by that, because I think whatever fraction of influence that James Jones had, continuing to be called the general manager of this whole operation for the past few years, I think that is gone. I think the part that's still here is the Ishbia influence, because that's Brian Gregory may not have had any care in the world about James Jones, so he's not continuing anything James Jones did.
Well, I think what's obviously clear is Ishbia's having a larger hand in these things than maybe you or I or even Ishbia is willing to admit. So when you bring in someone like Gregory, who we believe has a strong connection to Ishbia and is going to follow through the vision that Ishbia has, it feels like probably that's what James Jones was doing before. So when I say more of the same in James Jones, I mean more of the same of Mat Ishbia, who controlled James Jones. And then I believe
here's
will
the
be
distinction that I'm
Brian
making
Gregory.
is 100%. Sorry to cut you off. What I think the distinction is that I'm making is that there are still things James Jones existed, and we got a pretty good read on what his philosophy was before Mat Ishbia ever got here. James Jones wasn't just the GM for the past 2 seasons while Ishbia trampled all over the decision-making. He was the GM before that. And so there are some elements that I'm definitely not sitting here and trying to say that, it's a bad thing to get a different perspective in than James Jones. He had very clear weak points, right? I think you would say that if the organization is going to great lengths through the leaks that they've done and through this press release to tell you that Gregory had a very leading hand in the draft, this past draft. And Jake Fisher has tweeted in the past few minutes since this news came out that he was already playing a leading role in this year's draft evaluations and workouts and some of the things that they've gotten going since the season ended. Well, I would say that Dunn and Iguodaro are pretty big differences from the types of players that we had seen this franchise target under James Jones in terms of the archetype of player. Neither one of them can shoot a lick, and both of them are incredibly athletic and physical guys where that is their calling card. That's almost outside of positionally. We know James Jones likes wings, but welcome to the NBA in the 2020s. That's not exactly a unique position to target. The archetype of these guys is pretty different. And so I again, like I said in the first segment, I can at least see the I can imagine that Ishbia had already had Gregory in mind and likely had some conversations with Gregory as the season was wrapping up, given that they have a pre-existing personal relationship. And maybe some of the stuff we heard from Ishbia when he was at the press conference a couple of weeks ago was based on the identity that he already figured Gregory would have a leading hand in creating. An identity that is very much exemplified by Oso and Dunn. So I do think that I can understand that I can get behind the idea that we're going to see a different kind of roster philosophy and a different kind of, just what matters here now going forward than we did with Jones. The part that bothers me is the significance of the job that this franchise has to reset things and not fall apart and end up, a year from now forced to trade Devin Booker and really be in the dumps is pretty freaking hard no matter who you are. So a dude who was coaching USF a couple months ago, I know I'm exaggerating, 2 years ago, that's the dude you want to try to get primo value for Kevin Durant and walk this weird line where you're kind of trying to trade Beal, but you've already given up your leverage, and maybe we could get something back for Grayson Allen, even though he just had a craptastic season. That's the stuff that I don't trust a former college coach who just happens to be buddies with the owner to pull off. I think the identity stuff actually could happen, but it's the technical stuff that I don't think an inexperienced guy should be the one doing.
A lot of it's really good points, man. You don't think other GMs are licking their chops ready to fleece this team for Kevin Durant or try to talk them into trading Devin Booker? That should scare you. Like, with all the things that the Suns have going on right now, they needed an experienced GM or someone who has worked their way up the ranks ethically and not just by knowing the owner. And so when you talk about Kevin Durant, you talk about Devin Booker, I'm scared bleepless on what exactly the Suns are going to get back for Kevin Durant now. This shouldn't make you think they're going to get a haul. This should make you think they're going to get less, because I don't trust this guy. He's never been in a trade conversation. The most he's had to deal with is the transfer portal, and I'm not even sure they had that when he was the coach at USF. So I don't get it, man. You can say the best I can get to is we'll see. Sure, me too. Just like the reporting on this, just like what the Suns have been doing over the last 2 years, I just don't get it. I just don't get it. And I'm excited at some point when we can see them on a podium and them answer some questions about this, because first thing I would want to know is hey, why this guy again? And get an actual real answer out of that, and maybe not a PR answer, but it just feels like hiring your fraternity bro, man. And I feel the least amount of confidence I've ever felt in this front office to build a capable and competitive team around Devin Booker. So it's tough,
definitely,
man. I don't
Mat
get
Ishbia
it.
took over. It's at a low. Let's get to the next steps. We'll circle back and clean up some of the other front office moves that were made in conjunction with this one and what this all means for the coaching search next. All right, we're back. We're closing it out. Brian Gregory, GM. James Jones, ceremonial title. Maybe we just call him good guy to have around, or thank you very much for your services, man, or whatever.
Champ.
That one's
Doesn't he
already
go by
been
Champ?
around, but it works here. Yeah.
Isn't that what he is? He goes by Champ?
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll just call him Champ. Please don't ever call me Champ.
Well, you've never won a championship, so I wouldn't do that. That'd be a little weird to call you. Although if I called it to you, it'd be really condescending. That's like little brother stuff. All right, champ, whatever you say. That's a different kind of connotation. That's a different tone.
I did win a chess championship in high school.
Nice.
Not a lie. So champ it is.
I believe you. Okay. Well, we just saw how it ended up for this guy named Champ, so I don't know why you want that in the first place. But let's clean up some of the other moves. Paul Rivers. He was brought on 2 years ago, the first offseason that Ishbia was running the show. He was brought on to be the quote-unquote chief innovation officer. He is somebody that not only has Michigan State connections, but literally worked for United Wholesale Mortgage, the company that Mat Ishbia is the CEO of in his day job. But he's been promoted to he's adding basketball operations responsibilities. Let's just say he's been put into the brain trust in the front office. The interesting part about that, though, is he also was with the Thunder, one of the most successful and respected organizations in the whole NBA for a long time. So do with that what you want. He was in basketball ops over there. So it's kind of like a little bit of each side. I don't know what to make of that one. And then Orande Taliaferro is going to be an assistant general manager. He, this past season, had become the director of scouting. Before that, he was a scout for like 10 to 15 years across mostly the Pistons and I believe a little bit of time with the Brooklyn Nets. So those are more logical things. Guys whose names we don't really hear a lot. We'll see if that comes to pass. But, Ben, the reason I bring all that up, one, just to make sure people know what's up, but two, it really just feels like we should have been paying more attention to the hires that Ishbia had been making, even though James Jones was still here and some of the names that we were most familiar with were able to stick around. He was planting the seeds for his people to really be in prominent roles. We just didn't realize it at the time.
I would agree with you. Sorry, I was looking back into some of this, some of the things you had said about United Wholesale Mortgage. My reaction to these guys moving up into these ranks is I could get up, like people hire people that they're close to all the time. I can get that. It's when you hire your son to be the CEO or your son to be in charge of other people who've been doing this for a long time. These guys are just getting experience and positions to potentially take them further. So it doesn't move anything for me. And so I don't want it to be seen as this cat. Was that?
We'll just have to figure out if they end up mattering, right? I mean,
exactly. And so like assistant GM, it obviously does matter, but director of scouts, things of that nature, whatever, TBD. But the problem is we go back to Gregory and we're like, this is a high-profile job, and I don't see the experience. So that's where I would go with that.
Here's what I do kind of like about it in one way that I could imagine Jones might be of assistance in some way, shape, or form is that, and the other guy I would throw in here too is Matt Tellem, the dude who was hired from the Nets last summer. He is, of course, the son of Arn Tellem, who was a mega agent for a long time and now runs the whole Pistons business. But he was brought on as kind of a cap whiz. He had worked with the Nets for a long, long time. These guys scout, kind of business ops, whatever, with the Thunder for the Rivers side. And now Jones being at least available if needed. It's maybe not the absolute best type of NBA experience that I would have loved to put around Gregory, but it is at least, hey, we know the name of the assistant GM in such and such city, or we know this college coach who, we have John Shire's phone number, you know what I mean? And stuff like that. Like that does matter. That like these people do have to like communicate and schedule meetings and know their way around the world of basketball. So that's a lot of NBA experience to have around him. And I guess that's a positive. Let's get to the coaching ripple effects, though, because I think that is far more interesting to you and I and everybody else. The biggest, most tangible line in Shams Charania's story at ESPN about this move, besides the James Jones served for this amount of time and blah, 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 was the Suns are now expected to begin what will be a wide-ranging, extensive coaching search. I heard you and Espo yesterday on his show kind of going back and forth, like was the beginning of this coaching search that James Jones was allegedly leading, was that even real, or was that just kind of a placeholder type of report, and how much of the names we've heard even actual candidates? I don't know the answer to that, but I don't know, like maybe this means a guy from the college ranks is more likely. Maybe this means a defensive coach is more likely if they're kind of trying to tell us that Gregory leans that direction with his mentality. I don't know, but I'd like to believe that some of the names we heard were true because I liked them. So I guess time will tell.
Agreed. I really liked the batch of names that we had saw because it all fit the mold that we were looking for. Younger, first-time up-and-coming head coach that's got something to lose in their first job becoming a head coach. Like, you either make it or you don't in the NBA. And so I like those as well. And for all the doom and gloom and upsetness at whatever that I've had over this hire as the general manager, I got to be honest with you, man. The one way they can win me back is by getting the right head coach in order. And if they do that, and we can get more into that, a different day. It's not important. But if they can do that, those are the steps to showing us that you are experienced and qualified for this job. So if I see in a few weeks, they're looking at the Charlotte Hornets assistant head coach or just someone that clearly shouldn't be in the top tier list of what they want, it's going to continue to show the dysfunction of the front office led at the top by Ishbia. But if they can get a guy like a Bryant, I know you like Sweeney, Bliss, something like that, maybe an Ivy, that kind of stuff does show us that we were wrong initially about this hire. So hopefully that's the way they go. I saw Gambo reported that it's going to be an extensive list of 14 to 15 people. I would be curious to know if they did that with the general manager search. Probably not. But I'm curious to see the other names that come out and see if it fits the mold of what we've been looking at.
Yeah, I think the names we either they come back up or any new names over the weekend into next week that we hear who are candidates to be the head coach, those are going to be ones to take obviously even more seriously because those now we know the team has already announced who's running this whole thing and it'll be more real, right? Like I think the first batch of names, like I just felt good about it because it seemed like they were the right types of people. Now it's kind of crunch time to who are the favorites, who do they really like, and how are they going to go for the guys we know? Are they going to try to get a little creative about it? That's kind of what we're going to have to look at, offense versus defense, whatever. But I would agree in that it could make us feel a lot better about the direction here. I also wouldn't be surprised if we did maybe see like another hire or two with regard to the front office, that, maybe more people who are experienced like that just to give this guy some insulation and some support. But it's kind of the great unknown for me right now. I don't know what this guy's mindset and point of view is going to be. I don't know what it tells us about the roster or the coaching search. It's a lot different than if Bob Myers had gotten hired, Ben, where we would have just said, here's what he did when he was rebuilding Golden State. Here's his connections around the league. Here's some people he might want to bring in around him. Here's coaches that could make sense, on and on and on. This is a big, huge shrug right now.
Big, huge shrug. I mean, that's where I kind of land on it too, man. You had said it there a second ago, and I was like, yeah, it's a good point. It's kind of what we've been alluding to. It's like, we don't know anything about this guy. Like you had said, if it's Bob Myers, you and I would look towards, Mike Dunleavy's assistants right now, or guys over at the Golden State Warriors staff, or guys that he's
Willie Green worked there once upon a time. Maybe they can snag him from the Pelican. Like we would have had something to go off of.
We have nothing. What are we going to do? I guess Jason Richardson's going to be the next player of personnel here. Listen, Steve Nash is not going to come up. Well, heck, we'll just bring Jason Richardson into the fold and have him run player personnel moves. Former Michigan State guy, teammate of Mat Ishbia. So former Phoenix Sun too. So, whatever, man. Like, I don't know. We have to wait until names come out because we'd literally just be shooting in the dark because I don't know who was on the USF coaching assistants years ago. I'm sure you don't either. So,
yeah, I did try to dig quickly back through when we were getting ready to record to see, like, are there any coaches or players who have come through the places that Gregory was that could make sense? But, that's the thing. Like, not to pile on. Like, you and I have never coached a day in college basketball. He's done more than we have. But the bottom line is he is not exactly been in these high-profile winning environments. So there's not a lot of that tree to go ahead and pull from to go get people to fill in. It's going to have to come from a bunch of different spots and be more of a group effort, I think. And I do think Michigan State might be sort of the guiding light of all of it. So we'll have more news, I'm sure, by Monday. Yeah, no. Tom Izzo doesn't even seem like he actually wants to be coaching college basketball anymore, let alone
that's also
the NBA. It seems like he hates every day, and then yet he keeps coming back. We'll have more news by Monday, though. I feel certain about that. And I think the coaching thing, by mid-month, there will probably be a new head coach of the Suns. That at this point, they have no reason but to just be focused 100% on that. And that'll tell us a lot more. So hit follow or subscribe if you have not already. That'll wrap us up for the week, but we will be back before long, and we'll talk to you then.